Hello. And welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Farm to Fame. I am Kelsey Wingert. That is Peter Moylan. That is Maddie Mass. Once again, none of us matter. Not a single one of us matter. Because we have Alek Manoah on the podcast today.
Welcome in.
Love the clap for yourself. Yes.
Why not? You've earned that.
Let's see your prop. You have, it's a Slim Daddy Vladdy.
It's a Vladdy bobblehead.
And why wouldn't it be?
We'll put 60 on there. He's gonna hit 60 this year.
Is he as cool? Is he as cool as he seems like he is?
Yeah, he is. He's a great guy.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Does he have good shoe game?
Huh?
Does he have good shoe game?
He does. He does.
You hesitated.
I feel like because he's got good style, but there's sometimes I'm like, what do we got going on there today?
It's a culture thing. It's a culture thing.
Jordan Package just came in and he was just throwing it all on together, and it's like, all right.
Yeah. There is some serious drip that comes out of Venezuela, Dominican. You should see these guys dressed. It is unbelievable. Yeah. It is absolutely insane. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead, girls.
Mucho flow.
Oof.
Okay, if the world has been living under a rock, Alek Manoah pitches for the Toronto Blue Jays, one of my favorite cities in the world. And he had an incredible rookie season last year. We talked about you, Alek. We talked about you a lot last year on our podcast leading up to the Rookie of the Year race. We were all major Alek Manoah fans. Man, did we love watching you last year. So you're in Miami right now. The only reason I know that is because I listened to another podcast you did. I'm not like stalking you.
Yeah, I'm here home in Miami now.
What's our view right now?
The ocean.
Oh!
Show.
The ocean, little couple buildings. It's nice and peaceful right now. When the train comes by, we're gonna regret it being outside.
You're in pretty good shape right now, huh? You're in ridiculous shape right now.
I feel good.
Yeah, I saw a couple of videos of you. So when you say tunneling, okay, I've picked up on a couple. I went and watched your highlights on YouTube. So I've watched every pitch that you basically threw last year. So are you trying to tunnel all three pitches out of the one spot and basically have your slider do one thing, your changeup do another thing, your two seam do this, and then your four seam just basically carry top of the zone?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the biggest thing is like a lot of guys will ask me like, well, how come you sometimes throw a heater down the middle, it doesn't get hit, or a slider that stays up? Or I really think it's just making each pitch look like another pitch, So if I can throw a two seam that's moving this way, but I set it up off a, heater away that I have to keep you honest on. And then I throw in a slider, maybe you're like, all right, here's the sinker again, and then there's a four seam that stays straight. So a lot of hitters lately, they've kind of just, a lot of things fall off the zone. And it's like, well, that's where the four seam, comes to play and keeps you honest. And the changeup too, so I think everything, I can play it to the bottom of the zone and let everything fall off the zone and kind of try and mix it up. And some games when you're throwing, they're not swinging at the bottom of the zone. You're like, all right, let's start stealing some strikes up here. Then everything else kind of opens up, So I think that's the biggest thing, is trying to make everything look the same and then kind of fall off of that one tunnel,
Speaking my language. Sorry, Kels, I jumped ahead. I got excited. I got so excited watching his highlights today. I just had to get that question out of the way. Please go ahead.
Well, the thing that was most fun to follow along with you this season was you pitched some major innings for the Blue Jays. And we not only were we rooting for you, we were rooting for the Blue Jays to make the playoffs, because I will see that lineup in October. I mean, what an that team has to be, because Peter still works for the Braves, obviously played for the Braves. I used to be with the Braves. So we cover this young, exciting team and know how much fun it is when you have Acuñas and Aussies, and you guys are building such a similar team over in Toronto. I mean, what is that? You're young yourself. So what is it just like a party every day over there? Y'all have so much fun.
It's pretty sick. Not gonna lie. It's just really exciting. It's a group of guys that are super excited just for the game of baseball and like to play with each other. There's no real, everybody holds each other accountable. You never have to question someone's integrity or whether they want to win, and everybody's, one day you're going out there and Vlad, he's breaking, some sort of record. And we have an arm on the mound, Robbie doing crazy things last year. So Springer coming in and hitting a home run, first pitch to lead off the game. Simeon breaking the second base home run record, like just everything. Last year was just everybody's having a good time together. Everybody was having fun. Everybody was going out there and rooting for each other. And then, just to have that mentality and that attitude with a locker room of guys that are just completely nasty on the field is crazy to see. And it was just super fun to be a part of.
Could you feel the intensity pick up towards the end of the year as you felt it getting closer? Like, I know it's tough to go 162 at full bore, but when you get towards the business end of the season, you can feel it, right?
No, yeah, you can feel it. Every time you take the mound, it's basically we got to win, and you're a game out, 2 games out, whatever. You're chasing that wild card spot, and sometimes the other team plays before, and you're like, all right, well, I'm getting on the mound, and we can't be 3 games back. We got to go get a win. And that's what makes it so fun. Is also not only being able to be in that hunt and be like, wow, we got to win every game, but now sitting back and realizing, if we don't lose that one game in July or August, you know what I'm saying? Like, are we really pushing for that one game, and then you lose one to Minnesota and it's like, what if we wouldn't have lost, So now seeing that, it's like, like you said, it's a long season. It's the longest season of seasons, and to be able to go through all that at a high intensity and ultra competitive. There's times during the year you just don't feel good and things like that. But, just to be able to really keen in on that focus and look back and be like, well, you don't show up sloppy that day and we would have stumbled that team that we should have beat the crap out of, and maybe we would have won this game, whatever, like we'd be a 100-win team, easily.
Yeah.
With the way the lineup that we have and the rotation and everything. And once we put it all together, like if we would have been together a little bit earlier, I feel like we win 100 games and, losing 2 to Minnesota down the stretch wouldn't have been as big of a deal,
But don't forget about the lessons that you guys are going to learn from this year too. You guys are going to be nasty for years to come. So, this is just going to set you up perfectly for years to come too.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and being able to play in those pressure, situations where every time you're out there, it doesn't matter what team you're facing, they know what's at stake and your team knows what's at stake. So everybody's playing competitive baseball. You could be playing the Orioles, in September, and for them it's an exciting game because they're like, hey, you know what, we might be out of it, but these guys got a shot. They're going to be giving it their all, and then they're giving it their all. So
let's break their hearts.
It's a lot of competitive baseball there at the end. It's fun, man.
Awesome.
You pitched in so many big games down the stretch, like I did earlier. And I think that was like the biggest storyline around you was your ability in these major games and the biggest innings of the seasons to pitch the way that you did. I think back to the 8-inning start you had versus the Rays. Then you think back to your freaking debut. I love your mom. I love her.
Everyone loves your mom. Are you kidding me? Your mom is every mom ever in the history of the world.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Can we, like your shirt? Did y'all see his shirt?
Yeah.
It says, "Hi, Mom."
It's perfect.
I love it.
Perfect.
It's one of my favorite shirts.
So when you think back to last season, what starts stand out? I know the debut probably has to ring heavy, but what starts stand out the most to you? You had 20.
The debut was big. I think my start against the White Sox in Chicago was a pretty big deal for me. As well, that was my 3rd start in the big leagues. First start, you go out, you blow the doors. Second start, we're in a minor league ballpark in Buffalo. I give up 3 dinky home runs, to the Marlins. I give up 5 runs. Didn't have my best start. There's a lot of things kind of going through my head, like, was that first game a fluke or this or that, and then you go into that 3rd start against a really good, lineup in Chicago. And I was able to grind out 5 innings. there was some traffic on the base pass, was able to get out of it in the 5th, and just kept the game really close. I think it was either a 1-0 ball game or 1-1, something like that. Kept the game really close, and we ended up, winning it late in the end. And that's when, when I came out of that game, Charlie he came up to me, shook my hand, he said, "Hey, you're done." And he looked at me and he was like, "Hey, your competitiveness belongs in the big leagues." And that's when, like in my head, I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, that's the manager telling me, like, I know I didn't have my best stuff out there. And it's not like I struck out, 12 guys and ran through one of the best lineups in baseball. But it was just one of those games where I had to really grind, guys on
battle.
You're battling, Abreu coming up and just that lineup on the stretch. And then for him to be able to tell me, like, hey, that, like, what was important wasn't even whether I was able to have this stuff or this, that. It was just the competitiveness and the will to fight through anything and get the job done and just keep the team right there. And when he told me that, I was kind of just like, all right, like, that's the recipe. From there on out, I'm going to just go out there and compete everything. And that's how I've been my whole life is, like Peter was saying, it's tough to do it, a full 162 and 30 plus starts. And you kind of want to treat every start like it's September, October baseball, playoff baseball. But for me, not pitching in the big leagues, everything I had to do in college and everything, my mind's always been, this is the biggest start of my life, every start. So for me, it was kind of like, I just got to keep that mentality, keep getting better, keep studying hitters, all that. And it's not necessarily the stuff. Sometimes you're not going to have the stuff. You got to have that competitiveness and that attitude to be able to keep your team right there,
Hey, Pete.
Oh, yo.
You ready to feel the excitement of the conference championships like never before?
Look at this face.
Are you excited?
I'm so excited.
You can turn your team's victory into your own big win with DraftKings Sportsbook. We done knew that already. New customers can bet just $5 on any team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do win. It's that simple, just as simple as Peter's arm sweatbands right now, because if they win, you win. Illinois listeners, we have some real big news. We know there's a lot of you Illinois folks tuning in to Farm to Fame. Mobile registration is back. And right now you can sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook simply by downloading the app right to your phone. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still join in on the action with DraftKings pools. Everyone can play free all March long for a shot at over $250,000 in prizes. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code JOMBOY and bet just $5 on any college hoops team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. If they win, you win. If Pete wins, you win. Only if you use the promo code JOMBOY this week at DraftKings Sportsbook. 21 and up. Restrictions apply. See show notes for details. DraftKings, baby.
Boom!
Conference championships. I want to grasp this fully. You only made 9 minor league starts. Do you attribute your composure and your ability to like pitch? I mean, did West Virginia prepare you that well, or how were you able to make such a quick transition? I mean, you finished last season with what, like a 3.20 ERA? I know it's somewhere in these notes, but like, how were you able to do that so quickly?
I don't know. I think just life has kind of prepared me for pretty tough situations. Growing up, everything wasn't cookie cut. For me, I had to kind of grind for everything. I've seen my mom do a lot of hard work each and every day for me and my brother. So that kind of put in a fire built inside. And just, I see the bigger picture a little bit. I tend to look at the bigger picture. I have a little bit of an old soul. So I look at the bigger picture. I'm like, there's a lot of bigger things in the world than baseball. Like it just reminds you, like, baseball is a game, like life, like there's people out there, trying to pay their rent, trying to pay their car, trying to support, 3 kids at home, like doing a lot of real life hard work. So for me, like, being able to be in that position where the game's on the line and I'm competing and all that, like I've had to compete, my whole life. So it's like now having to compete on the field, like all right, this is the easy part. Like the hard stuff's done behind the scenes, you know, all the hard work and all that. So like now this is just the go perform part, you know, and I think God has just been able to put me in really great positions to succeed, and He's allowed me to be in positions to fail and to learn from my failure, you know, where the failure hasn't taken me completely down. It's allowed me to bounce back and learn from it and continue to get better from it. You know, so I think that's the biggest thing is at the end of the day, I was going through a big league season, still learning a ton of things, you know, like wasn't completely polished when I got there and had to learn a ton of things, adjust through a ton of things. And I think that's kind of just how I've been my whole life, just being put in a position and, hey, figure it out, adjust. If it doesn't work, you know, you got to find a way to make it work, you know? So being able to pitch in those big games was a lot of fun.
You're for sure Peter's new favorite player.
Yeah, 100%. It's the same, dude. I can't I'm not going to tell stories about myself the whole time, but I'll just tell you one quick story. I was the same way. I signed at 27 out of the World Baseball Classic. I had no business re-signing again. I signed as a 17-year-old, played 3 years of rookie ball and got released. Came back 8.5 years later, got a second chance. Was playing in the WBC, signed to Atlanta, went to minor league spring training, went over, backed up a couple of times. 4 days into the season, I get called up. I was in B League baseball 4 months earlier, and I'm now in the big leagues pitching against Ryan Howard. So I know what adjusting and trying to force yourself into, like, it's either sink or swim, dude. You either do it or you don't. It's like we have a saying, you either shit or get off the pot.
That's it. You know, and the way I think about it is, you know, I got 3 AAA starts, and then the next phone call was Yankee Stadium.
Perfect.
Yankee Stadium. So in my head, I'm like, you know what? There's no way I can lose today. There's no way that my entire journey in life, everything that I've gone through to get to this point, now God has put me into Yankee Stadium to absolutely fail and end up back in AAA or whatever, like just trying to like figure. I was like, this is how smart me to fail. Hey, three AAA starts, you know, all right, he's not ready. You know, it's completely fine. Could have gone out there and just shot the bed. But in my head, I was like, you know what? This is house money. You know, if they're expecting me to fail, I'm going to go give it my all and let's see what the hell happens, you know? And then was just able to adjust and build from there.
Man, I'm looking up your numbers. How do you hit 492 with 5 home runs? That's your junior year at West Virginia?
No, high school.
How do you not get drafted?
I don't know.
That's why I was like, okay, thank you. Because I thought
492 with 5 home runs, and I'm a 6'7", you know, 260 pounds at the time, first baseman. You know, in my head, I'm like, I'm pretty athletic. You know, I got good hands over here. You know, I'm hitting the ball. I'm a gap-to-gap power. I'm not just a swing or miss kind of guy. And I had no offers, no college offers, not even like JUCO offers. And this is a time where I saw half my team like verbally commit since like freshman and sophomore year. And I'm like, man, like, am I supposed to play baseball? Like, I can't even I'm just trying to get, you know, to college. Like, I'm emailing like High Point University, like Central Michigan, like just small schools, just trying to like, hey, can I go to a camp? And then once I saw the camp prices, I was like, my mom can't afford that, no way. Never did a camp. And then luckily I had a coach from Atlanta call me from the Atlanta Blue Jays named Steve. And he's like, hey man, we know about your brother. We have a kid, Chris Beck, that played with you like growing up, went to elementary school with you. This and that, I've seen some video on you and I want you to play for our travel team this summer. I'm like, okay. I was like, money's kind of tough. Like I can't really, you know, like afford to do all that. He's like, listen, we're going to help you out. Don't worry. You're going to come stay in my basement the whole summer. We're going to do drills, train, this and that. And like, this guy's he's a legend, man. Like he brings guys in from all over the world. They stay in his basement. Like it was pretty cool. I was staying in the basement with like 7 other dudes, guys on air mattresses and rooms and all that. We had a guy that used to fall asleep the night before in his baseball uniform because he wanted to sleep in the morning. So it was just like, it was a cool little gig going on. And he worked us the whole, and I was never a pitcher, you know, I was a hitter. So that summer or whatever, he was like, do you want to be a first rounder? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, 1, we need to slim up. And then he was like, 2, I need you to trust me. And I was like, well, what do you mean by trust me? He's like, well, we're going to change everything you're doing. And I'm like, well, to be honest with you, I've never really been a pitcher, you know, so I really don't know what I'm doing. I just grab the ball and I close a couple of games out. In high school, like I'm a hitter. And he's like, no, but I think we can make you a first round arm, you know, and if you go to college, I don't know if you'll be a hitter or an arm, but I really think you have an electric arm. I'm like, okay. So that summer I came in, and we were on like 9 miles an hour, 92 miles an hour, just slinging it, you know. First week, we start doing these drills, like, you know, just balance drills and using my legs and all this stuff. First week, I remember throwing like 96 miles an hour, like sitting 96, and like this one tournament, like a prospect select, whatever tournament, prospect wire. And I like 3 pitches, I broke a kid's bat, got the ground ball back at me. So then the guy from the tournament was like, hey, we want to see you throw some more pitches, like just maybe for like our prospect wire All-American games, this and that. I'm like, okay. So I go into the bullpen and I throw some more pitches for him. I'm like 94, 96 in a bullpen. And I've never been a pitcher before or anything. Like these new mechanics work, man. So the guy from the tournament ends up tweeting something out. You know, Alek Manoah, MLB Draft prospect, whatever, up to 95 miles an hour, 6'6", 260, whatever. And the PG National, you know, the Perfect Game National or whatever, like they weren't giving me an invite. You know, I think I got an invite, but like the top 100 guys go for free. Everybody else, okay, that's what guys don't know. So they were charging me like $1,000, and I'm like, I can't pay $1,000 to go to this thing. So I was like, all right, I'm not going. So then I get a message right after that tweet, like literally an hour later, I get a message from the guy from Perfect Game, like, hey, we want you down next week at the PG National. We're going to pay for your flight, your hotel, and all this, boom, boom, boom. Like, now they're paying me to go. I'm like, whoa, all right. So I talked to my coach. I'm like, hey, like they want me to go to the PG National next week. He's like, man, those guys didn't want you a week ago. Now they want you? And in my head, I'm like, all right, listen, I understand where you're coming from competitive-wise, but in my mind, I'm like, dude, I got no college scholarship offers. Like, I need to go get a scholarship, man. Mm. And he's like, you know what Delino DeShields did when he went first overall, or he went in the first round? I was like, what'd he do? He's like, he rode this bus with me all summer. He listened to me. I was like, listen, I'm gonna do all of that right after I do this PG National. I'll do all of that. So he was like, all right, whatever. So I left the team. I left Atlanta. I flew to Fort Myers, threw 2 innings, struck out 4. Was up to 93, 94. Had a good curveball. And then just, you know, coaches, college coaches just hit him. That was the first time West Virginia's seen me. Mississippi State, Auburn, like all these schools were just all over me. Wow. And then I just went on that summer and just continued to work with this guy and built my mechanics and built my velocity and my location and all that stuff, and was able to pitch my way into the Under Armour All-American game. And then after that, that was basically like there was a ton of, you know, offers, but they were all like, hey, we need you to come for an unofficial visit. And I'm like, well, I can't do unofficial visits. Like that's a $500 flight, hotel, all this. Like back then it was unofficial. They couldn't pay for anything, you know, it had to be official. So I did it the old school way. I'm like, hey, look, I'm waiting till my senior year fall where I can take official visits, and I'm going to take all the official visits. You know, so I waited that fall and I took my visits. And that's where I ended up, you know, being a Mountaineer. And then that senior year when I went back to high school, I kind of had a high school pitching coach who kind of tried to change everything I did that summer. Ooh. You know, so it was kind of like he was trying to get a piece of whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was like in my mind, I was like, dude, like you didn't touch me for 3 years. I don't know why you didn't think of turning me into a pitcher, but now you're trying to change everything that got me scholarship offers and stuff like that. So I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, so whatever, I'm working with him, and then my velocity is just not what it was before. Mm.
And then I was not bought in, and I'd keep banging heads with him. And then my brother was like, man, you need to be coachable. And I'm like, it's not that I'm not coachable. It's that something worked and something's not working now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I was kind of bouncing with those emotions and that stuff and bouncing my mechanics my whole senior year, and went undrafted. And I honestly just think that was, God just letting me know, like, hey, trust the process, trust the route. You're going to go to college. You're going to do it the right way. You're going to go work on your degree. You're going to go learn not only what kind of player you want to be, but what kind of person you want to be in life. And then you're going to be able to skyrocket from there,
Oh my gosh, you are so awesome. So I'm married into a WVU family.
Nice.
And holy smokes, is that a fun, passionate bunch? I have loved learning the fandom over there. But how did you end up from Florida to landing on going to WVU?
Yeah, so that fall when I was taking all those visits, my first visit was to Mississippi State, and I had a great time there. One of my buddies, Eli Marrero, he was the catcher there at the time. I went there on the visit, hung out with him, had a great time. Last day that I'm there, coach sits me down and he's like, hey, look, this is your offer. What do you think? And I'm like, well, you're my first visit. I got 2 other visits. I love the offer. I think it's great. But I'd like to see what else is out there. And he's like, well, if I offer this to anybody else, they'd be saying yes in a heartbeat. And I'm like, well, I understand. But I have 2 other visits that I promised coaches I'm going to make. Well, do you see yourself in a Bulldog uniform? I'm like, yeah, I do. He's like, okay, so can you be honest with me? Like, who are we fighting with here? I'm like, look, it's honestly between you guys and Auburn. I think I want to play in the SEC. I think it's between you guys and Auburn. I was like, but you at least got to let me take the other visits. I already told the Mountaineers I'm going to take a visit there. He's like, all right, so 2 weeks you'll have an answer. I'm like, all right, 2 weeks. So I get out of that meeting, I get back home, and I had the West Virginia visit for 2 weeks, and then the Auburn one after that. So I'm like, that's 3 weeks, and then I'm gonna need another week to make a decision. So that's 4 weeks. So I remember calling the West Virginia coach and moving up their visit, like it was nothing. Like I don't even think I'm gonna go here. I'm just doing it out of respect.
Yeah.
They've been great to me through the whole process, whatever. So I'm just going to go take the visit, because I said I would. And I remember moving their visit up. Coach is like, what's going on? And I'm like, no, nothing. And something came up. I can't go that day. He's like, well, there's no football game or anything. I'm like, well, football games, I'm going there to play baseball. It doesn't matter. He's like, all right, whatever, this, that. I get there to Morgantown, and I have a great time.
Mm-hmm.
The school's great. Coach, every other visit you go on, they take you to like a nice steakhouse. At Auburn, I met Charles Barkley, like pretty cool little things like that. At West Virginia, it was like, hey, we're having a barbecue at the coach's house, coaches' wives, kids, some of the teammates, just a real family atmosphere, And I just loved it. Like I felt like a part of it, when I saw their practice, I was like, these are the kind of practices, like the energy, the excitement, like everybody's yelling and screaming, having a good time. Like that's fun baseball, And I remember calling my mom that Sunday night, and I was like, Mom, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do. I was like, I love it at West Virginia. Mississippi State was great, and I thought I didn't even know West Virginia was gonna be in the picture, That's when I left West Virginia, and then the next week I go to Auburn, and I have a great trip there. I remember a lot of people telling me, I forgot the head coach that was there at the time, but they were like, man, that guy's bad. Like he hits kids and all this stuff. I'm like, we'll be all right. I meet the guy. I'm like, this guy's fine. Tom Holliday was the pitching coach there, recruiting me there. He's a legend as well. That was basically my thing. I didn't want to go into a U.S. school that had been to the last 6 College World Series. Like, I'm just not a number. Like I want to try and help bring a team, to the top, and I was like, all right, Auburn's the best of both worlds. Like I'm going to be able to do that there. I think this is the place for me. And I literally remember I was like, I'm going to shake the coach's hand and tell him, I'm in. I want to be a Tiger. And something told me not to do that. So luckily I didn't do that. And I remember I had breakfast with the whole staff, everybody. I get on my flight. I land in Miami. And at the time, I had like, some advisors or whatever, they're agents, but family advisors at the time when you're in high school. They were texting me because they knew Auburn was one of my top 3. And they're like, hey man, like, have you heard the news about Auburn? Have you heard the news about Auburn? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I just left Auburn. I just landed from Auburn. And they're like, well, the whole coaching staff just got fired. I'm like, what do you mean the whole coaching staff just got fired? And they're like, yeah, like Holiday's on administrative leave. Greg Norton, I think, was the hitting coach at the time. Like, he's on administrative leave. The head coach is banged. And I'm just like, if this isn't a sign from God that I didn't shake that hand and say that, I was like, this is crazy. Like, all right, Auburn is definitely not the move.
Wow.
Can't go to a school that has no coaches that I was committing to.
Yeah.
Then you're in high school and you get stuck with a coach that you don't like, or he ends up pulling your scholarship, and now you have to go take low money in the draft because you don't have a school to go to.
Right.
So I'm just thinking about leverage here, and I'm like, I got no leverage if I commit to Auburn. So I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So now I got Mississippi State on the other side, blowing up my phone, just brrr, brrr, and I'm like, shit, I don't have an answer. So I'm literally not answering the phone. My best friend now is Eli. He's calling me. I'm like, all right, I can't answer him. I know why he's calling me. They're calling my mom, like,
come on.
Like, I promise you, my mom's calling me like, hey, what's going on? The Mississippi State coach just called me and he just wanted to make sure everything was okay. I was like, Mom, I don't have an answer. Like, I was going to go to Auburn and they all got fired. Like, now we're reevaluating. Like, I really don't know what to do. And I remember, we had one practice and one of my teammates, like that we would talk a lot about God with and things like that. And he was like, hey man, there's only one answer. And I was like, what's that? And he's like, you just got to pray about it. And whatever you feel, So I'm like, all right, so I prayed on it. The next day I woke up, I literally get called down from class into my head coach's office, Burnside. And he sits me down and he's like, hey partner, what's going on? And he's like this old school, mid-70s coach. It's real.
I could tell just as soon as you started the accent. I had a picture in my head.
Yeah. He's like, hey, partner, what's going on, partner? I'm like, what are you talking about, coach? I just got off the phone with Mississippi State. They called you too? He's like, listen, I've been doing this a long time. Let me give you some advice here. These guys have been to the College World Series. These guys have done it. Listen, you're not going to break their heart if you tell them that you're not going to their school. He's like, is it Mississippi State? And I'm like, I'm going to be honest with you. I liked it better at West Virginia than I did Mississippi State. He's like, well, it sounds like you're not going to go there. Don't keep them in the loop. Don't have them calling me. Call them. Break it off. That's it. It's not going to break their heart. You're going to be all right. It's all right, partner. Yeah. I'm like,
partner.
Humbled me quick. I'm like, you know what? It's not that big of a deal. They don't care. We're just going to call them and they're going to move on to the next guy, So later that day, we have a scrimmage and I get home and I remember I'm sitting in the car and I'm like, all right, I'm going to make this phone call. I'm going to call coach. I'm going to let him know I'm not going to Mississippi State. I'm in the car all dirty from the scrimmage and I call him and man, was my head coach wrong. He was,
just thinking
he was so wrong. Like I called this coach and it was literally like his dog died. Like he was getting broken up with, like you were breaking up with a girlfriend and she didn't want to break up. And she was just like, and he just kept telling me like, well, I really thought you could see yourself in a Bulldog uniform and, did we do anything wrong? And
it's not you, it's me.
Yeah, it's not you. I was like, no, it's not you, it's me. So I'm like, no, I just, just something doesn't feel right about me going to Mississippi State. And the visit was great. You guys were great. Obviously it's a powerhouse school, like the tradition. I just like, something just doesn't feel right. And there was a silence on the phone. Like, man, I just want you to know we're going to be here for you. Like whatever you need, like, you never know how these things go down the road, like whatever. And I was like, no, coach, like, I really appreciate that. Whatever. I hung up and I was like, man, did I make the right decision? I'm like, that's a big time SEC, like program. Yeah. Like that's a big program, And whatever, I go into the house and my mom's not home yet. Nobody's home. And I'm just in my own thoughts. And this is the crazy part right here. So I get upstairs and I get into me and my brother are sharing a bathroom at the time. My brother's down from pro ball. I think it was like his second off season. He's down from pro ball. He's staying in the house with us. We're sharing a bathroom, and I know my brother, and my brother doesn't fold anything ever, you know? So he gets into the house and he just laundry on the floor in the bathroom, showers, whatever, and he'll probably stay there for a couple of days. So I get home and like I'm taking my clothes off and I'm still in my thoughts. I'm like, man, did I, make the right decision, whatever. And I remember just my eyes glanced like by the toilet, like just real quick, like I was gonna put something on the floor, and my eyes glanced by the toilet, and I looked back. And when I look back, I'm like, what the hell? And there's a pair of shorts folded. My brother doesn't fold, but it was like, not only were they folded, but like there was a logo just creeping on the end, like that you could see. Like if it was a half centimeter more the other way, like I wouldn't have even seen it. But it was like showing. And I did a double look, and when I looked again, it's a West Virginia logo, and they're a pair of West Virginia shorts. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever spent any time in Miami or how long you did spend time in Miami when you were here, but there's not a whole ton of West Virginia fans. And we were never West Virginia fans growing up. And I'm pretty sure if you asked everyone in my family where West Virginia is, they would say, oh, it's the west part of Virginia.
Yeah.
You don't even know West Virginia is a state. All right. So now I'm looking at these shorts in the bathroom. I'm like, West Virginia shorts. After I just made that crazy decision, and after I've been praying about it, now spiritually, I'm like, this is a sign. Like where did these shorts come from? Like there's no way. Like who even put these shorts here? So I remember I was just sitting there and I was like, well, the school that I didn't think it was gonna be, this is for sure the school I need to go to. Like, for sure. Like it was the best time that I had there. I saw myself fitting into that program a lot more than any other school. It was like I was fighting to go somewhere else. Like I was going against it. God just wasn't letting me. Fired everyone at Auburn. Coach told me to call Mississippi State, and then the shorts are there. So I'm like, whoa. So I was like, hold on, we got to justify it. My brother gets home from training, and I'm like, hey, like those shorts in the bathroom, how'd they get there? And he's like, what do you mean, bro? They're my shorts. They're not your shorts. Like automatically arguing with me, because he knew West Virginia was recruiting me. So he was like, those are mine. They're not yours. I'm like, dude, I'm not trying to steal your clothes. Just hold on and listen to the story. And when I told him, he was like, well, to be honest with you, I don't know why I folded them. I usually just throw them on the floor. He was like, but I just folded them that day. So that was me, I was thinking like God was just guiding like the little pieces around me to just put me to think, this is the spot, and it was what I wanted, I get to build a program up and be a real key piece in doing that. And then you go back and think that the pitching coach from Mississippi State 3 weeks later takes the head coaching job at Auburn. And the guy that was recruiting me at Mississippi State is now the head coach at Kentucky. And the head coach that was at Mississippi State is the AD. So that whole coaching staff blew apart.
Yeah.
The Auburn coaching staff blew apart. The only one that stayed together and is still together is the one at West Virginia. And like for me, that was just, those were all just key pieces that was like, that's where you need to go. It was like the family tradition, smaller school, get to build a program, be passionate, tradition. And then that's the spot that God wants me to be. So that's the spot I'm going to be,
Did it work out?
I don't know. I'm on Farm to Fame 2 years later. So I think it worked out.
First of all, in 3 seasons at WVU, you had 34 starts, pitched to a 281 ERA, 249 strikeouts to 88 walks. Secondly, intentional prayer will change your life. And that story is such good, tangible proof of that. And I've had that conversation with 2 people this week. So I just applaud you for using your platform to talk about that. But take us to draft day, because obviously you have an incredible run at WVU. What a story so far. And then you're picked 11th overall by the Blue Jays.
Mhm.
I'm looking at a picture right now of you on draft night, and your face, I mean, it's the most just like genuine relief, just this smile of like true appreciation of hearing your name.
Yeah, it's actually pretty crazy how God brings everything full circle, you know, because then you fast forward to that junior year, we host the regional, we get walked off on our own field. That's another crazy video. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but we get walked off on a 3-2
No.
grand slam. We're up 7. And 3-2, 2 outs, grand slam, we lose. Like anything else could have happened except that, and that's what happened, you know? So that was our last game. And then the next day was, you know, draft night, and obviously we were hoping to still be playing in the regional, but so we had nothing planned. You know, my whole family was in town. They watched the regional and they wanted to be there for the draft. And I remember Maisie came out to me and he's like, "Hey man, like, what are you doing for the draft? Like, I want to be there." He's our head coach at West Virginia. And I was like, man, I really don't have anything, you know, planned at all. I was hoping we'd be playing, you know? And he was like, well, this whole thing started at my house. Let's finish it at my house, you know? So I was like, heck yeah, that's a great idea.
Wow.
So literally the same barbecue style that we had on my visit.
Oh, no.
On my draft day, the whole team came over, girlfriends, like coaches' wives, the kids, and everybody was just at coach's house. And we got to sit there and hear me go in the first round. It's pretty crazy.
That was awesome.
Circled all the way back together.
I'm gonna cry.
That's a great story.
Not emotionally stable enough for that. Do you still talk to your head coach from WVU a lot?
Oh yeah, of course.
What about the coach with the Atlanta Blue Jays?
I talk to him all the time. He's hilarious, man. He always, like, during starts, you know, after starts or whatever, like, he'll text me little things, like little inside jokes or whatever. And we were talking the other day because I had just had my camp. And I remember I was like advertising it on my Instagram, and he had messaged me and he was like, "Oh, you're telling everybody, you know, to come learn from the best, but I'm not going to be at that camp." I was like, well, you know what? You know, eventually we'll be able to get one, you know, into Georgia, right around your house where the pitching mechanics began, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that. Yeah. What is that? It's the Alek Manoah Baseball Camp?
Yeah.
And then Manoah Driven. Tell us about those two things off the field.
Yeah. So Manoah Driven is something me and my brother, when my brother's been in the minor leagues for a little while, and like in the off season, he'll train, you know, clients. And then me, I was like, dude, like, I kind of need a place to train, you know, like, why don't we just get together and let's bring together a gym? And then basically just moved my brother's, you know, some of my brother's clients into the gym. And he was able to work out of, you know, his gym. And I was able to kind of bring in, you know, some athletes and guys that I wanted to train around and things like that. And from there on, we've just kind of been able to build, you know, all starting, you know, with the gym, and hopefully we'll continue to grow it into, you know, little league teams and things like that and everything, and just be able to grow that Manoah Driven. You know, we kind of, when you think of Kobe and the Mamba mentality,
Mm-hmm.
we kind of want to create something very similar, you know, the Manoah Driven mentality that keeps you going. You know, that you have to adjust through things and you have to continue to fight through anything. Even if it's working out in 100 degrees in Miami in a warehouse with no AC, or throwing bullpens during COVID on a wooden, you know, turf mound in a concrete floor that's not even, and trying to throw strikes while the mound is moving. You know, if you can figure it out there, you're going to be able to figure it out on a mound that's nice and comfortable with cleats on and a groundskeeper cutting the grass and all that stuff, you know. So we get after it in there. And then, you know, one of the other things, you know, that I've really been wanting to do, and, you know, and the agency was able to really help me put it together, was the, you know, Alek Manoah Baseball Camp, you know, because being able to inspire the next generation is one of our ultimate, you know, goals. And being able to use Manoah Driven to do that, and be able to use our platform to do that. You know, because where I come from, there's not a whole ton of role models, you know. You're watching, you know, guys on TV and things like that. You want to be like those guys, but in real life, you don't really think that that's possible. you know, and sometimes, you know, you can navigate through a lot of negative situations and you can get caught in those negative situations and you can turn into a negative person and you can end up, you know, being a guy that's, you know, going to jail or getting caught at school, skipping school, doing drugs, whatever. Or you can, you know, try and learn, you know, from your mistakes and grow and stay in the middle and trust the process, you know. So for me, being able to make it through some of that and get to the big leagues, I wanna try and be there so these kids personally can see, hey, you know what? It's not that far of a reach. Like this guy was walking the same halls that I was walking. You know, this guy living in the same basement in Atlanta that I was living at with 8 other guys. You know, I can do it, you know, and when shit gets hard, I want them to remember like, hey, you know what? It's supposed to be hard, you know, but I can do it. Like that's the dreams are right there. They're obtainable, you know? So that was the biggest thing, you know, just being able to be around, you know, 40, 50 kids at the camp. They were all there. The energy, the love for baseball was there. And just to be able to spread that love for the game and be able to use that to inspire them to just want to be great in life. It was amazing. It was a really amazing day.
How did you market it? Just like on social media?
I think the first post I made on Instagram was like early January, like January 10th,
wow.
something like that, January 15th. And we were able to get 50 kids, not even 3 weeks.
Wow.
You know, so
that's amazing.
That's awesome.
It's literally amazing. And just to be able to have them all out there and excited. That's the biggest thing, you know, because there will be no baseball in 20 years if the kids now don't love baseball.
Yeah.
You know, and if they don't want to play baseball, and if they didn't dream the same way we dreamed, the same way you got 3 rookie ball seasons and cut and ended up, you know, playing in the WBC and then brought you all the way back, like you got to have a dream to keep you alive through all that stuff. You know,
right.
You got to have a different kind of, you know, motivation and a driven mentality to be able to grind through circumstances and not say, hey, you know what, shit's hard right now, I'm gonna quit. You know, no, it's like I know that it's going to be worth it at the end, you know? So as long as they can all have, you know, dreams are free, man. You can have as many of them as you want.
All right, fine. I'll jump in. Manoah Moylan mentality. Fine.
That's
Fine.
it. Yeah.
I'm in.
I love
I'm
it.
in, dude.
It flows right off the tongue.
Yeah, it does.
Easy. Go wraparound t-shirt.
20 games, you started 357 ERA, 128 strikeouts to 41 walks. You pitched 116 innings. You were in Rookie of the Year talks all the way to the end.
Our talks for sure.
Oh yeah, we were big Team Manoah fans over here. I mean, what are you most proud of from that season with all of those accolades I just listed? I mean, such an impressive rookie year. Like, what were you most proud of?
How I finished, you know, I think for me, that was the biggest thing. And I was able to learn a lot from myself by that finish, you know, going 4-0 down the stretch in September, I think with a sub-2, you know, ERA, pitching in big games against big teams.
Nothing better.
And for me, that's huge because you get to a territory, unmarked territory is what I call it. I got to a point where, you know, people say 116 innings, but I was going ready to go in January, you know, because for big leaguers, you know, like Hyun-Jin Ryu and Jose Barrios and Robbie Ray, those guys don't need to come into camp making a team. You know, they're coming to camp using spring training to get ready for the season, how it should be. But when you have a young guy trying to come in and make a team and make a statement and something like that, I'm coming in. I was throwing live BPs, you know, throwing 96 miles an hour in January. Like,
Rage.
Season starts in April, you know? So I'm throwing, you know, giving it all in January, throwing a ton of innings in Miami, get to spring training, you know, ready to go, throw some pretty good innings there. And then all of April that the big league season started, I'm stuck in at the alternate site, you know, going 6 innings every week, you know, every 5 days. So I had, you know, when you put spring training and then the other 30 innings I threw at the alternate site, plus the 20 innings in AAA, and then you add that onto the 116 in the major league season, we're looking at 160 to 180 innings over the course of the year. And the most I've ever thrown was 108 in one
Wow.
at West Virginia, plus 17 in Vancouver with a 3-week break in the middle, you know, because of the draft. So the most I'd thrown was, you know, 124, 125 innings, you know, spread out. And
Yeah.
now I got to go throw 150, 160 innings every 5 days over a span of 6 months.
Full intensity too.
Full
Full
intensity. Every pitch matters, you know, trying to earn my stay. So the biggest thing for me was being able to finish like that, because I was in uncharted territory. So for me, being able to find ways to get better and find ways that in my head I was better in September in innings 130 to 160 or 140 to 170, whatever, than I feel like I was earlier on. And for me, that's the biggest thing, you know, that I took away from the whole season, is being able to have that, you know, that, like what we talked about, that Manoah driven mentality, and that, you know what, I trained in a warehouse in 100-degree weather with no AC. I was like, you know what, who cares if my arm feels a little heavy today? We got to go out there and we got to win a ball game. And that attitude of, I got to go get it done, whatever it takes. If I got to leave my arm on the line or my leg or whatever it takes, you know, like Mike Tyson was willing to bite an ear to win that belt. Like, whatever it takes out on that mound, I'm willing to die out here. You know, and I feel like just that intensity and that focus, and, you know, and that passion down the stretch, to be able to have that, that's where I was able to, that was my biggest takeaway. And that's where I learned a lot about myself, was down that stretch and that uncharted territory.
Good for you.
Your mindset like that it's so easy to tell just watching you play, your competitiveness. I mean, I grew up with Randall Grichuk, and I had texted him about you midway through the season, and he said he is such a bulldog. Like, everybody speaks to your competitiveness, and it's so much fun to watch.
Can I ask you about that real quick? So just my last question for you is going to be, explain to me how different it was playing in a AAA stadium in the big leagues.
Oh yeah, just how difficult the season was. I mean, y'all didn't have a home until the last couple of months.
Yeah, I really realized how crazy it was when the Yankees played us in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And, you know, like the first few games there in Buffalo, they were fine. You know, it's a minor league ballpark, and I will say the ball flies there. Watching Vlad and BP there, it was like, I was worried for my window in the hotel.
Yeah. 5 miles away.
He was hitting it, yeah, like he was hitting like across the courthouse, like into the hotel, you know. Then the Yankees came to town, and I remember going out for batting practice, and there's just a ton of navy blue, and I'm like, we're not even wearing the baby blues today, you know, like why is there so much navy blue? And then coming out like 6:45 before the game, and it sounds like Yankee Stadium, like legit sounds like Yankee Stadium, and I'm just like, what the hell? And, you know, George Springer comes up to bat, and you're hearing boos, and nobody's chanting for Bo or Vlad, and I'm like, we're not at home.
Sucks.
This isn't a home ballpark whatsoever. You know, like, guy hits a single for the Yankees, and it's like they won the World Series. It's like, this isn't home field advantage, you know? The Red Sox come to town, it's very similar. Fast forward, and we get to Toronto, and there's 15,000 fans, like they're 15,000 capacity, you know, the first home weekend, and it sounds like 100, like 50,000. Wow. You know, and they're like, I think we won 9 straight games at home, and it was just like, wow, this feels like, this is crazy, you know, like this is what home field advantage feels like. And for me, obviously, my first time having home field advantage in the big leagues ever, you know. So like Buffalo, I was like, oh, this is bad, but like in my head, I'm like, I don't know what it's like.
Yeah,
have home field advantage. So I'm like, it's really not. But then when you go home and you see it, you're like, wow, this is insane. And just how passionate the fans are in Toronto for baseball, man. Like, it's like they were dying to go to the game. It's like 15,000 people. What, like, that stadium, it needed more, you know, like, if
they needed 3 stadiums.
Yeah, it's insane. You know, like there was people from the condominium buildings, you know, that overlooked the stadium, like with flags hanging from their windows. Like, it was insane, you know. So to feel that electricity going from Buffalo, where it felt like we were in Yankee Stadium, to then going to Toronto and feeling that home field advantage, I mean, it makes a difference. It definitely makes.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Does Maddie, Peter, do y'all have anything else?
That's my last question. You've
Alek.
been, excuse my French, you've been fucking unreal, man.
I mean, it seriously has been so great getting to talk to you. And man, I mean, like I've mentioned a few times, we were huge fans of you last year, but just to get to know you a little bit more on a personal level, like, holy smokes. I mean, we're always going to be in your corner, and we will always be rooting for you. And we will always be trying to make sure the entire world knows about Alek Manoah. And we can't wait to see what you're able to do. Man, these next couple of years, once we're back playing the game we love, we cannot wait to see you back out there on the mound.
Can't wait.
Sure.
Can't wait.
Oh my gosh.
Last.
Does Pete have his Aussie lingo?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. I was about to end it without Aussie lingo.
Goodness gracious.
The Australian word.
Redo. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with, I might have done this before. Have I done Bodlo before?
No. Butler.
Okay. Bottle-o.
Oh, bottle O. Coke.
Hold on.
Coca-Cola.
We're gonna guess what bottle-o is, and I'm
Yeah. And he doesn't give it in a sentence, and he doesn't know what nouns or verbs are. So we get no context clues.
I don't know. I feel like it's some sort of animal.
Ooh.
Like I don't know why we were talking about buffalo, buffalo bisons,
Yep.
bottle-o. I'm like, all right, it's a bison or bison.
Okay.
Maddie,
Whoa.
Maddie, what do you got?
I'm going water fountain.
That's a good
You
one,
are actually the closest, but what it is it's a drive-through bottle shop. So when you can go pick up a case of beer, you can pick up a bottle of wine, pick up some alcohol. Drive-through bottle shop is called a bottle-o. There
Can you go inside?
No, it's drive-through.
No,
only.
just drive through. Do
Bottle-o.
you order like you're at a fast food restaurant on the little, hello, welcome to McDonald's?
No, they come out and they serve you. You drive through 2 lanes only. There is a parking lane and a drive-through
Kind of
lane.
like a farm stores. Have you ever been to a farm stores? Oh man, you guys aren't from Florida. That's right.
What is it?
What is it?
There's a place called Farm Stores in Miami, and it's literally, it's like a little place, and then there's like 2 workers inside, and it's literally like a grocery store. But you pull up like a drive-through, and then you're like, hey, like, can I get a thing of eggnog, milk, whatever.
Eggnog was the first thing you went with there.
Hold on, eggnog and milk at the same time?
Eggnog was the
What
first
What are
thing
you
you went
shopping
with.
for, dude?
They have the best. Like now, I don't eat dairy or drink dairy or milk or anything, but Christmas time comes and there's one eggnog to drink. One eggnog in the whole world. Farm Stores eggnog.
What? I
I'm telling you, nobody.
didn't even know people under 50 drank eggnog.
What? Listen, you don't get this big by accident, okay? And growing up, I wasn't called fat for no reason. Eggnog was great growing
Fair
growing
enough.
up. They would start packing the shelves in November. I was already having a glass.
Love it. I love it. I've never had eggnog in my life. You and I need to share an eggnog.
Eggnog with alcohol. That's what a lot of Hispanics do. So you got to get the best
Baileys? What
eggnog.
you putting in there?
Vodka, right?
Putting Baileys in there? What are you putting in there?
Rum, yeah.
We're way off. Bailey's, vodka,
Baileys.
rum. Yeah, that's
I
it.
just like Baileys because it tastes like a
Rum
chocolate
eggnog.
milkshake.
They call it coquito.
All
Coquito.
right,
Say it
Coquito.
again.
Yeah.
Coquito.
Yeah.
write that down.
The big
The
thing about-
only word I can say with a good accent is que lo que, que lo que,
lo que.
tranquila, que lo que, que lo que.
Well, that's close. Coquito. Que lo coquito.
Okay, no, that's too many. Claca.
I always remember Bottle-o and Farm Stores now.
Yes, you will.
Yeah,
I'll never
Yeah.
forget farm stores.
Yeah.
I will
For
probably
eggnog only. For eggnog
Eggnog.
only.
be thinking
Like
about
a special
eggnog.
road trip for just eggnog down in Miami.
Yep.
Okay.
Farm Stores. You won't second guess it the next time. I guarantee you.
I don't know.
Seriously, it's been so cool just
Mhm.
getting to talk to you, hang out with you, and get to know you. We are officially your biggest fans. Thank you so much for giving us an hour and 21 minutes of your
What?
time.
Yeah, no, I didn't even notice, so don't worry.
An hour and a half of your time
Oh,
you just gave us. Thank you so much for coming on. We can't wait to follow along this season. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening. We'll see you next Wednesday, baby. Farm on, farm often.
Awesome.